Hey guys, tonight we're going to drift back to a time when people didn't have alarm clocks. Yep, you read that right. Imagine lying in bed, deep in sleep, with no buzzing or ringing to tear you away from your dreams. What did they do instead? How did ancient people even know when to wake up in the morning without a clock to guide them? Well, as it turns out, they had some pretty creative ways of telling time. Some of them so out there, you might not even believe it. Before clocks and alarms became the ubiquitous devices we rely on today, there were methods that were almost more art than science. For example, you could track the passage of time using natural elements like the sun or the moon. But these methods weren't always accurate. You could wake up when the sun was at a certain spot in the sky or when the moon reached a specific phase. Still, as practical as these methods were, they weren't exactly precise. Imagine needing to wake up at 7 a.m., but instead you're relying on a shadow or a star that doesn't quite line up the way you expected. Historians still argue whether the first timekeeping devices were more about convenience or about a deeper connection to nature. Regardless of how primitive they were, these early systems laid the groundwork for the more sophisticated methods we would soon develop. The sun would rise and set, but people were still left to figure out how to manage their daily lives with no set rhythm, no mechanical system to guide them through the hours of the day. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like this, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know where you are right now and what time it is in your neck of the woods. Drop your location in the comments below. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You probably won't survive this, at least not without a good sense of humor. Imagine this. Before the digital age, the concept of time was much more fluid. People's daily routines were based on the rise and fall of the sun, with little to no consistency in how time was kept. The first timekeeping devices weren't watches, clocks, or even candles. They were often much more simple and deeply tied to the natural world. The sun, the moon, even the stars were the timekeepers in a world that seemed completely untethered to anything other than nature's rhythms. But here's where things get interesting. This concept of keeping time didn't always mean waking up at the same time every day. It wasn't about a rigid schedule. People generally woke up when they felt like it, or when the environment told them to. It wasn't until the invention of tools like water clocks and candles that people could actually measure their days. Even then, these devices didn't necessarily help you get up on time. They were just there to mark time in a more tangible way. Awaiting continue. Imagine the sound of soft, soothing darkness around you. You're lying in bed, drifting through sleep, unaware that ancient civilizations were already hard at work inventing ways to track the passage of time, methods that would make your current alarm clock seem like a futuristic marvel. But you probably won't survive this, because the first alarm clocks were, quite literally, candles. Yes, candles. Before those buzzy, maddening beeps we're all too familiar with, people relied on a much slower, quieter method of waking up, by the gradual melting of wax. You see, ancient civilizations didn't have the luxury of a fancy alarm clock with a snooze button. Instead, they had candles with carefully crafted marks along the wax. As the candle burned, it would slowly melt down, leaving behind traces of time. This process was an elegant solution for keeping track of time during long, quiet nights, or during specific activities that required scheduling, like a prayer or a public event. Imagine the flicker of a candlelight gently flickering in the quiet darkness, gradually guiding you through the hours of the night without any noise, just the slow and steady drip of wax. But here's the quirky part. These candles weren't designed just for light. They had precise measurements and were often used for timing purposes, with each mark representing a set amount of time. Some candles even had scents or markings that would alert you when it was time to wake up, not unlike how modern alarm clocks have sounds or lights to signal you to get up. The process may have seemed simple, but historians still argue whether these methods were more effective for ritual purposes or actual daily life. Were they a luxury reserved for the wealthy or an everyday tool? It's hard to say. As you settle further into the blankets, Imagine that this very system existed long before the mechanical, digital, or even the electric alarms that followed. And as you drift closer to sleep, imagine the flickering of a candle burning down, guiding you into the next phase of timekeeping. This was the way that humans first learned to control time in their lives, albeit in a far slower and less intrusive way than the loud, harsh beeps we're accustomed to today. These early timekeeping devices were an innovative solution, and yet they weren't perfect. As you might imagine, the burning of a candle wasn't the most reliable method. Different candles would burn at different rates depending on the environment, the wax type, or even how evenly the candle had been made. Despite these imperfections, candle clocks were used for centuries, and even today, they stand as a testament to human creativity in solving problems. Imagine how much of the world was shaped by people waking up to the warm glow of a candle, their time measured by the steady drip, drip, drip of wax. If you're starting to feel the weight of history, well, it's because these simple methods would lay the groundwork for much more sophisticated ways of waking up. As civilization advanced, more mechanical, more predictable devices came to the forefront, replacing these slow-burning candles. But before all the digital alarms and clock radios, the quiet and steady wax of candle clocks was how many ancient people marked their days. Awaiting, continue. You're lying there, listening to the quiet rustle of your sheets, drifting off again. But pause for a moment. Imagine a time when your clock wasn't a sleek gadget or even a ticking machine. Instead, it was the shadow of a tree or the gentle rise of the sun. Before candles, water, or even mechanical clocks, humans were entirely dependent on the natural world to track time. If you had lived in ancient times, you would have used the sun's position in the sky or the changing of the seasons to guide your day. The most ancient method of timekeeping was the sundial, a simple yet effective way to track the passage of time using the sun's shadow. The sundial, a simple device consisting of a stick, or gnomon, placed vertically in the ground, would cast a shadow on a marked surface as the day went on. The position of the shadow would give you a sense of the time of day, morning, noon, and afternoon. It wasn't perfect by modern standards, of course. A sundial is useless at night or on overcast days. But during the day, it was the best thing going, and it was widely used in ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. You're probably wondering, how accurate was it? Well, historians still argue whether sundials could really provide the precision needed for everyday life, or if they were more of a symbolic representation of the passage of time rather than a reliable tool. Sure, you could roughly guess noon, but there wasn't the precision that modern clocks offer. It's almost as though time back then was meant to be a more fluid concept. It wasn't about hitting the 7 a.m. mark or getting to work on time. It was about marking the day, letting the world move in its natural rhythm. As you settle deeper into the bed, think about this. When the sun rises, your day begins, not by the clock, but by the light itself. The ancient world didn't have the exactitude we have today. People woke up when the sun did, and they worked until it set. There was no rush, no frantic checking of clocks, no alarm bells piercing the air. The world just flowed with the sun's rhythm. But of course, not everything could be so simple. The sun didn't rise and set the same way everywhere. People living near the equator, for example, could rely on more consistent daylight hours, while those living farther north had to contend with varying day lengths depending on the season. So, while sundials worked wonderfully in certain climates, they weren't exactly a one-size-fits-all solution. Still, this connection between time and the natural world carried its own unique sense of peace. The day unfolded slowly, guided by the sun and the shifting shadows of the earth. It wasn't about punctuality. It was about living in tune with nature. And yet, the desire for precision, for regularity, was in the air. As populations grew and societies became more complex, people began to seek ways to regulate their daily lives with more consistency. As much as it may seem like the natural world provided everything, time itself was becoming an issue. People didn't just want to mark the day with shadows. They needed ways to measure time with more precision. That's where the evolution of timekeeping devices was about to get even more fascinating. Awaiting, continue. You're settling in more deeply now. The quiet surrounding you almost feels like a second skin. You might even drift into a peaceful state, imagining life before digital clocks, when time was a bit less rigid. But there's something important to note about the ancient world. As much as the sun and the shadows were guiding their days, people started to realize that they needed something a little more reliable than just natural rhythms to structure their lives. That's where candle clocks began to shine. No pun intended. The candle clock was one of the first attempts to bring precision to timekeeping, combining the simplicity of a candle with a clever design to track the passage of time. The idea was simple but brilliant. Candles were designed to burn at a steady rate, with markings along the wax. These markings represented specific time intervals. As the candle melted away, it would reveal the passage of time in a way that was both practical and quite poetic. Some candle clocks even had scents or symbols built into the wax that would signal when it was time to do something, like wake up or start a prayer or attend to other rituals. Imagine waking up to the faint scent of melting wax, or seeing the flicker of candlelight gradually dim as you drifted into sleep. Historians still argue whether these candles were actually used as alarm clocks in the way we think of them today, or whether they served more as a way to mark the passage of time during specific activities or events. Some argue that these candles were used primarily in monastic settings for prayer times. After all, in the Middle Ages, keeping track of time wasn't about personal convenience, but about coordinating activities with religious practices. But what makes these candles fascinating and a bit quirky is the fact that they were surprisingly reliable. Well, at least more reliable than some of the methods that came before them. The idea of burning wax to keep time doesn't sound like a modern solution, but in its time it was revolutionary. The evenness of the burn, the consistency of the wax, and the rhythmic dripping of the wax offered a new level of time control that wasn't dependent on the shifting shadows of the sun or unpredictable water clocks. You had control over your time in a way that people hadn't before. However, that doesn't mean it was a perfect system. These candle clocks didn't work so well in windy or humid conditions, or if they were made incorrectly. And let's be real, the sound of a candle slowly burning away is nothing compared to the buzz of a modern alarm clock. Still, this method was a step toward more reliable timekeeping, a small but significant leap away from the days of sundials and the reliance on natural phenomena. As you relax, imagine a world where the only way to measure time was through a candle's steady burn. You'd watch it melt, marking the hours, its faint glow illuminating your space. It wasn't an alarm in the traditional sense, but it was a way to track the unfolding day. As you drift into sleep, it's almost as if you can feel the quiet ticking of time, the slow melt of a candle, gently carrying you through the night. Awaiting, continue. World is quiet, and you're floating deeper into relaxation. As the candle burns down, marking the time, it feels almost comforting. No rush, just the steady melt of wax guiding the hours. But what if, instead of a candle, you could use something that wasn't so fragile, something that could track time more efficiently and without all the mess? Well, it turns out the next step in the evolution of timekeeping wasn't just about candles, but about harnessing the flow of water. Yes, water clocks. The invention of water clocks marked a pivotal shift in how humans measured time, and it was far more sophisticated than the humble candle. In ancient Egypt, Greece, and China, people began to experiment with the devices that could track time by using the flow of water. These early water clocks were known as clepsydra, a name that still sounds as ancient as the concept itself. The clepsydra worked by allowing water to flow at a controlled rate into a container. As the container filled, it marked the passage of time, offering a more consistent measurement than candles or shadows. Some of these water clocks were incredibly intricate, designed to measure hours or even minutes with impressive precision, at least for the time period. The idea was simple. As long as the water flowed steadily, you could measure time in a much more controlled manner than before. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians or the Greeks were the first to develop these devices, but one thing's for sure, water clocks were a game changer. They were used in a variety of ways, from timing speeches in the ancient world to regulating the workday in later centuries. The beauty of the water clock was its ability to function indoors, unaffected by the weather or the time of day, unlike sundials or candles. Imagine a day where the only thing you had to worry about was how fast the water was filling up a container. It wasn't quite as precise as a modern clock, but it was certainly an improvement over the rudimentary methods of timekeeping that came before. You might be wondering, how did they ensure that the water flowed consistently? Well, the truth is, that wasn't always guaranteed. Water clocks were prone to inaccuracies, especially depending on the temperature or how pure the water was. In cold weather, water could freeze, halting the flow completely. Still, the fact that water clocks were used for centuries shows just how valuable and innovative they were. These devices didn't just track time, they allowed people to structure their lives around it in a way that was previously impossible. If you can picture this, you might imagine walking into an ancient Greek forum with people gathered around a water clock, watching the slow, steady rise of the water. Time wasn't measured by a loud bell or the ticking of gears. It was measured by the gentle rise of water. And while it may sound a bit strange to us now, back then, this was a cutting-edge way to bring order to a world that was often chaotic and unpredictable. In the modern world, we think of clocks as solid, reliable things, machines that measure the passing seconds down to the millisecond. But to think that something as simple as water, flowing at a steady rate, could become the foundation for such a system shows how resourceful humans have been throughout history. And as you ease deeper into relaxation, it's almost as if you can hear the steady drip of water marking the hours, guiding ancient people through their day with an elegance that modern machines sometimes lack. Awaiting continue. Now you're really sinking into a peaceful state, imagining the gentle flow of water in those early clocks. It's soothing, isn't it? The rhythmic rise and fall of the liquid, marking time in a way that feels almost meditative. But let's not stay in the realm of flowing water for too long. The next step in the history of timekeeping is a leap forward into a world that feels more mechanical, more structured, a world where human ingenuity and precision began to take center stage. Enter the mechanical clock, which revolutionized the way we understand and experience time. Around the 13th century, the first mechanical clocks began to appear in Europe, and they were a game changer. These early devices weren't anything like the sleek, quiet timepieces you're familiar with today. They were massive, noisy, and often inaccurate, but they were a big step forward. Powered by weights and gears, these clocks didn't depend on the sun, water, or candles to mark time. Instead, they used a series of mechanical movements to measure the passage of time. By relying on the gear system, these clocks could chime on the hour, giving people a more structured sense of time. No more guessing when it was noon or when the day was winding down. Now, you could rely on the consistent chime of the clock to know exactly when it was time to wake up, eat, or work. Historians still debate whether mechanical clocks were originally invented for practical reasons or to fulfill religious needs. Early mechanical clocks were often installed in church towers, where they could ring bells to signal prayer times. These bells were crucial in coordinating religious activities, marking the hours of devotion throughout the day. Whether they were used more for the convenience of the people or the needs of the church, these early clocks brought a new kind of order to daily life. These first mechanical clocks were far from perfect. They were often large, cumbersome machines that took up entire rooms, and the time they kept was far from accurate. The gears that powered these early clocks were often imprecise, meaning the clocks could be off by hours. Yet, these early clocks were still a technological marvel. They set the stage for a world where time wasn't just a vague concept. It was something you could measure and depend on. Picture yourself in the streets of a medieval town, hearing the deep toll of the church bells marking the hour. That sound became as much a part of daily life as breathing, its familiarity comforting and reliable. If you lived during this time, you would know exactly when to wake up, when to stop for meals, and when to begin your daily tasks. For the first time, time was something you could rely on, not just something that passed you by. But as important as the first mechanical clocks were, they weren't without their flaws. Their inaccuracy was a common problem, and their reliance on heavy weights to keep the gears turning meant they needed constant maintenance. Still, the very fact that these clocks existed at all was a revolutionary step forward. They were the beginning of the end for the reliance on natural phenomena like the sun or the moon for tracking time. And even as the clocks ticked away, imperfectly, they marked the start of an entirely new way of life, one where time was no longer just a concept, but a tool for structuring every moment. So as you lie there, fully relaxed, imagine the sound of those early mechanical clocks, the gears grinding away, the bells ringing out over a town. It's not quite the smooth ticking of the clocks you know today, but there's something charming about the rhythm they created, something that ties us to the past, reminding us how far we've come in our quest to control and measure time. Awaiting, continue. Now imagine you're drifting into sleep, your body relaxed, and the world around you feels peaceful. But there's something in the air, almost like a quiet hum, a subtle shift. As time passed and technology progressed, these early mechanical clocks didn't remain the be-all and end-all solution for measuring time. By the time we reached the 15th century, clocks became more widespread. Yet, while the mechanical clocks of the time could ring out the hours and keep the rhythm of the day, they still weren't precise enough to be fully reliable. People could get the general sense of time, but if they wanted real accuracy, they needed a new solution. Enter the clockwork movement, a brilliant innovation that would lead to even more precise timekeeping. In the 15th century, advancements in clockmaking allowed for smaller, more refined clocks that could measure time more accurately. The real turning point came with the creation of the verge escapement, a mechanism that controlled the movement of the clock's gears, preventing them from spinning too quickly and causing the clock to lose accuracy. This improvement in design helped refine the accuracy of clocks, though they still weren't the perfect machines we have today. Historians still debate whether the verge escapement was a true breakthrough for precision or just another stop on the long road to an accurate timepiece. What's fascinating is that this moment in time also coincided with a shift in the way people began to think about time itself. The invention of better clock mechanisms allowed people to move away from a world where time was something to be observed passively through nature, and instead, time became something actively managed and controlled. You didn't just wait for the sun to rise or for a bell to ring, you started to own your time. As the 16th century progressed, the development of smaller portable clocks started to take hold. This was the beginning of the personal clock, something you could carry with you, not just place in a town square or church tower. By the late 1500s, the first watches emerged, mechanical devices small enough to fit on your wrist or in your pocket. Now, you didn't have to wait for a town bell or rely on a giant church clock to mark the hours. You could have time with you wherever you went, right in the palm of your hand. But this was also the point where the demand for precision really kicked into high gear. No longer was it enough to just have an alarm bell ringing out in the town square. People were becoming more connected to time and more dependent on it than ever before. The creation of portable, accurate watches allowed for even more control over one's day. You could wake up at precisely 6 a.m., check the time as you left the house, and ensure you arrived at work exactly on time. Time wasn't just something you had to manage. It was something you could shape. You might not realize it, but all this thinking about the mechanics of clocks and timekeeping has brought you closer to today's modern alarm clocks. But don't drift off just yet. These early watches, while a marvel at the time, weren't perfect. They had issues, often inaccurate, requiring constant windings, and more importantly, they weren't yet equipped with the ability to wake you up with the dreaded sound we all know today. Still, they set the stage for the final evolution in the evolution of waking up, the rise of the alarm clock. As you relax and slip further into sleep, imagine the gentle click of a mechanical watch, winding and ticking away. It's a comforting sound, the tick of time moving forward slowly but steadily. Now let your mind wander, knowing the invention of the alarm clock is just around the corner, and soon enough the world will wake up to a whole new sound. Word count, awaiting continue. As you slip deeper into the calm, the clock ticks away, steady, persistent, marking the passing moments. But we're not here just for the tick of time. No, we're diving into something more intimate, something that's become a daily ritual for almost everyone in the modern world. Yes, I'm talking about the rise of the alarm clock, the shrill sound that breaks through your peaceful slumber, demanding you wake up whether you're ready or not. It's the invention that turned waking up into an event. And to get there, we need to understand how time itself evolved from something abstract into something so critical to daily life. It was the 18th century when the idea of the alarm clock as we know it today first came to life. Up until that point, if you wanted to wake up on time, you had two choices: rely on nature or have a helpful human servant tap you awake, a luxury most people didn't have. But with the rise of industrialization and the growing demand for punctuality, the alarm clock was born. The first mechanical alarm clocks were rudimentary. They didn't have snooze buttons, no clever ways to make the sound less jarring. They just rang at the time you set them. If it was set for 5 a.m., it would ring at 5 a.m. No questions asked. One of the earliest patents for a mechanical alarm clock came in 1787, and the inventor was a man named Levi Hutchins from New Hampshire. Hutchins, a clockmaker by trade, was tired of being late to work, so he invented an alarm clock that would wake him up at 4 a.m. every morning. The thing was, Hutchins's clock could only ring at 4 a.m. It wasn't exactly customizable. There were no buttons to set it to your ideal wake-up time. Still, the concept was there, a mechanical device designed specifically to shake you awake. Historians still debate whether Levi Hutchins's alarm clock was truly the first, or whether there were earlier versions lost to time. What we do know is that Hutchins's invention was the beginning of a revolution in how we approached waking up. At first, these early alarm clocks were a luxury item, not something you'd find in every home. The idea of having something specifically designed to wake you up on time was a bit extravagant at first. But as society became more industrialized, the demand for punctuality grew. Suddenly, an alarm clock wasn't just a useful tool, it was essential. Picture this. You're in an industrial town, the sounds of machines and people working all around you. The world is humming with activity, and suddenly, at the exact moment you need it, your alarm clock blares. The harsh ringing forces you to open your eyes, get out of bed, and get to work on time. For many, the alarm clock became a symbol of the new era, a mechanical servant that didn't care about your personal comfort or your sleeping habits. It simply served one purpose: to make sure you were awake. And that's the trick, isn't it? The alarm clock is a little bit cruel. It doesn't ease you awake with the soft rays of sunlight or the gradual glow of a candle melting down. It's a blunt instrument designed to shock you out of your sleep and force you into the day. But it's also a necessity for the modern world. We live in a world that thrives on punctuality, and in that world, the alarm clock reigns supreme. So imagine that sound, one that we all know too well. The harsh ringing, the jarring beep that cuts through the silence. It's nothing like the soothing tick of a mechanical watch or the slow burn of a candle, but it gets the job done. As you lay there, relaxing and sinking into sleep, think of how this device, this relentless alarm clock, has shaped the way we view time and how we experience mornings. From the gradual passage of time marked by the sun to the invention of the mechanical alarm clock, we've come a long way. The alarm clock, in its modern form, would continue to evolve, adapting to the changing demands of society. But for now, let's rest easy, knowing that this mechanical marvel was the start of a journey that would lead us to the buzzers and beeps of today's modern life. You're easing further into relaxation now, and I want you to hold on to this sense of calm, because we're diving into something almost as jarring as that first alarm clock blare, yet much more familiar today. I'm talking about the true evolution of the alarm clock, the rise of mechanical clocks with alarms built right in, changing the way we wake up forever. These clocks weren't just big, clunky machines that rang at the hour. They were designed specifically to make sure you woke up on time, every time, even if you didn't want to. As the 19th century rolled in, mechanical clocks had already evolved a lot, and manufacturers began to realize that there was a demand for alarm clocks that could be set to a specific time, not just a single wake-up time, like Hutchins's first invention. The next step forward was to add a spring-loaded mechanism that could trigger the alarm at a designated time. These clocks often had bells attached to the gears that rang out when the time came. This was a more customizable experience. Now, you didn't have to rely on a specific set time. You could choose when to wake up down to the minute. These mechanical alarm clocks were the standard for much of the 19th and early 20th centuries. They were often large, cumbersome devices with brass gears and loud, shrill bells that would pierce the quiet of the night. If you wanted a more peaceful morning, well, tough luck. The bell would ring, no matter how tired you were or how much you needed sleep. If you lived in a crowded industrial town, you might have even been woken up by the sound of multiple alarms going off in the street. Imagine that scene. The jarring ring of dozens of mechanical clocks, waking people from their slumber at the same time, like some bizarre communal alarm system. But what's fascinating about these early alarm clocks is that they represent a shift in how society viewed sleep and work. Before these devices, people woke up when they felt like it, or when natural markers like sunlight or church bells told them it was time to start the day. But the advent of the mechanical alarm clock was a direct result of the Industrial Revolution. As factories sprouted up and the economy shifted to a 9-to-5 schedule, waking up at the same time became a necessity. People couldn't afford to sleep in, not when factories were operating on tight schedules and workers had to punch in at precisely the right moment. Historians still debate whether the alarm clock was a tool of convenience or a symbol of the dehumanizing forces of industrialization. Was the alarm clock a blessing for workers, helping them rise on time to earn their wages? Or was it another cog in the machine that controlled every aspect of life during the Industrial Revolution? It's hard to say, but there's no doubt that it represented a shift in society, a shift that turned personal time into something regimented, regulated, and controlled. So, as you relax deeper, imagine that time when the bell of the mechanical alarm clock would ring out in the stillness of the night. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't kind, but it was effective. As you drift closer to sleep, you can almost hear the sharp chime of the bells in the distance, signaling that the day was about to begin, whether you liked it or not. But this wasn't the end. The mechanical clocks were only the beginning of a much more sophisticated age of timekeeping. The next evolution, the electric alarm clock, was just around the corner. Awaiting continue. You're drifting deeper now, almost unaware of the passing moments, as we step into a world where the mechanical alarm clock is starting to feel like an ancient relic. The clanging bells, the winding gears. They were the tools of their time, no doubt, but as the 20th century dawned, something new was on the horizon. The electric alarm clock. This new breed of timekeeping device promised a quieter, more precise way of waking up, and oh, how it delivered. Gone were the days of winding and cranking. The electric alarm clock took the world by storm, offering a level of convenience that the old mechanical clocks simply couldn't match. The first electric alarm clocks began to appear in the 1920s, bringing with them the promise of a quieter, more reliable wake-up call. Unlike their mechanical predecessors, which relied on heavy springs and gears to create the alarm sound, electric clocks used the power of electricity to trigger an alarm. This new method was not only quieter, but also more consistent. The electric alarm clock could be powered continuously, meaning you didn't have to worry about winding it up every night. The ticking of the mechanical clock, once so familiar, was replaced with a more serene, constant hum. But even with this shift, the electric alarm clock wasn't yet the sleek digital marvel we know today. In fact, the first electric alarm clocks were often just slightly upgraded versions of their mechanical predecessors. They still had bells, and they still made noise, but they were powered by electricity instead of winding mechanisms. As the years progressed, however, these clocks began to shrink in size, with better designs, brighter faces, and more customizable features. You could finally set your alarm to the exact minute, and you could even adjust the sound to be a little gentler. Though don't get too comfortable. This was still an alarm clock, after all. Historians still argue whether the shift to electric alarm clocks represented a true leap forward in convenience or whether it just made the process of waking up a little less grating. Some say that the electric clocks were the perfect blend of innovation and practicality, offering a level of ease and precision that the mechanical clocks never could. Others argue that these new clocks didn't solve the real issue, the fact that they were still there, interrupting our sleep, forcing us out of our dreams and into the harsh light of reality. Regardless of where you fall on this debate, one thing's clear: the electric alarm clock was here to stay, and it would become the cornerstone of modern waking. By the 1950s and 1960s, these clocks began to evolve even further, with manufacturers adding new features to make the wake-up experience more customizable. The addition of a snooze button in the 1950s was a game changer for many. Now you could stay in bed just a little longer, letting the alarm ring a second time before dragging yourself out of the warmth of your blankets. A few extra minutes of sleep? It sounded like heaven, didn't it? For the first time in history, we had the ability to control our waking moments with a little bit of luxury. Of course, snooze buttons came with their own set of problems. It was said that snooze users were often more tired because they'd be in and out of light sleep rather than resting continuously. But let's be real. The snooze button was probably the best thing to happen to the alarm clock since the invention of electricity itself. As you lay there, fully relaxed, imagine the sound of that first electric alarm clock buzzing in the room, signaling the end of a peaceful night. It's different from the harsh clang of the mechanical clocks, more predictable, maybe even more pleasant in a way. But the feeling remains the same: the end of sleep, the beginning of a new day. And as we head toward the final stages of the alarm clock's evolution, you'll start to see how this humble device would continue to change in the digital age. But for now, take a moment to appreciate just how far we've come from those first harsh bells. You're sinking deeper now, the calm enveloping you as we transition into a world where the electric alarm clock is no longer the new kid on the block. It's the 1970s, and the humble alarm clock is about to undergo another transformation, one that would forever change how we wake up. Picture yourself in a world where the buzz of the mechanical alarm has been replaced by the steady beep of the electric clock. But there's something else in the air now, a new kind of noise, a more pleasant, less abrasive sound that signals the next big leap in alarm clock technology: the digital alarm clock. The first digital alarm clocks began to appear in the late 1960s and early 1970s, and they brought with them an entirely new way of telling time. Gone were the familiar dials and hands of traditional clocks. Instead, you had a bright, glowing display that told you the exact time down to the second. The shift from analog to digital was about more than just aesthetics. It marked a shift in how people interacted with time itself. The display was crisp and easy to read, and the convenience was undeniable. You no longer had to struggle to figure out whether it was 6:05 or 6:10 a.m. You could see it all laid out in front of you, in bold, unmistakable numbers. These early digital clocks still used electricity, but with their sleek new displays, they were far more modern and futuristic. Some models even included an alarm feature that let you set your wake-up time with pinpoint precision. But more than that, these clocks looked cool. They had that futuristic vibe, like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. The red or green glowing numbers became a fixture of bedrooms, and with them, the sound of digital beeps began to replace the shrill ringing of old mechanical bells. It wasn't just the look of the clock that changed, it was how it worked. Digital clocks often featured new, more subtle alarm sounds. You could choose from a beeping sound, a buzzer, or even the radio. Yes, some early digital clocks came with built-in radios. It was like the alarm clock had become more customizable, offering a variety of ways to wake up. You could pick the sound that was least jarring to your tired mind, easing into the morning a little more gently than before. But as you might expect, the beep of the digital alarm clock wasn't always the gentlest of wake-up calls either. Historians still debate the psychological effects of the digital alarm clock. On the one hand, the precision it offered was a big improvement over the previous generation of clocks. It allowed you to be more in control of your time. But on the other hand, the sound of a persistent, unrelenting beep can be just as jarring as any mechanical alarm. It may not have had the sheer volume of the old bells, but it still interrupted your sleep, dragging you from your peaceful slumber and thrusting you into the noise and bustle of the day. Still, the new digital design was a massive step forward in the evolution of the alarm clock, ushering in an era of technology and customization. As you relax further into sleep, think about the new digital clock at the bedside, its numbers glowing faintly in the dark. It's quiet, precise, and sleek, with just a hint of that old mechanical urgency. This was the alarm clock of the future, and that future was right around the corner. The next big step? The radio alarm clock. But before we get there, enjoy this brief moment of calm, knowing that you're living in a world where the alarm clock is still evolving, constantly finding new ways to wake you up. Awaiting continue. You're nearly weightless now, slipping into deeper rest as the sound of the digital clock begins to fade into the distance. But there's something else we need to explore, something that really changed the way we interacted with our mornings: the radio alarm clock. You've probably seen one of these in your lifetime, or perhaps even have one sitting on your nightstand right now. Imagine waking up not to a harsh beep, but to the soft strains of music or the calm voice of a radio host announcing the weather. The radio alarm clock took the concept of waking up to a whole new level, and it wasn't just about the sound, it was about the entire experience of starting your day. The 1950s and 1960s saw the rise of these multifunctional devices, combining the reliability of the digital clock with the entertainment value of radio. In the past, you could rely on your alarm clock to wake you up with a shrill beep, and maybe that was it. But with the radio alarm clock, you could now be gently woken by your favorite music, the latest news, or an upbeat morning talk show. It made waking up feel like less of an intrusion and more like a pleasant greeting from the world outside your window. What made the radio alarm clock particularly interesting was how it altered our relationship with time itself. Before this innovation, you might wake up, check the time, and groggily begin your day. But with a radio alarm clock, the moment you woke up, you were instantly immersed in the world's happenings. It could be a favorite song, the latest news from around the globe, or a reminder of the weather. Suddenly, waking up wasn't just about the time, it was about connecting with the world in a more immediate, intimate way. And the transition wasn't abrupt, it was a soft shift. Imagine the sound of a favorite song drifting through the room as you wake, rather than a sharp, unsettling beep. Historians still argue whether the radio alarm clock was a product of convenience or a subtle push toward a world of constant connection. By the 1970s, the radio alarm clock became a fixture in many households, combining two necessities of life: timekeeping and entertainment. The idea of waking up to music or the latest broadcast news felt like the dawn of a new age, one where personal convenience and media consumption overlapped in the most intimate way. But not everyone was happy with this change. Some people missed the simplicity of the traditional alarm clock. Sure, the beeping was harsh, but it got the job done. The radio alarm clock added a layer of complexity, and maybe even a little anxiety. Now, your morning was filled not only with the task of getting up on time, but also with the task of choosing what you wanted to wake up to. Would it be a song, a radio show, or maybe a local news station? Even the most harmless choices now seem to carry an emotional weight. And yet, as you relax and think about this shift, it's easy to see why the radio alarm clock became a staple. It added a layer of comfort, connection, and personalization to the act of waking up. No longer was it about just time, it was about how you felt when you woke up. And for many, that experience, whether it was the sound of soft music or a friendly voice on the radio, was a more pleasant way to begin the day. Imagine now, as you rest, the soft hum of your radio alarm clock filling the room, the sounds of your favorite tune gently coaxing you awake. No jarring beeps or harsh ringing, just a smooth transition from sleep to wakefulness. This, of course, was just one step in the larger evolution of the alarm clock, but it was an important one. The radio alarm clock didn't just change how we woke up, it changed how we thought about time and the mornings that followed. You're floating even deeper into comfort now, letting your mind wander. Let's take a step forward and think about what came next. The digital clocks and radio alarm clocks served their purpose, but the 1980s and 1990s would bring us something even more transformative. By now, alarm clocks had become an integral part of our daily routines, but the introduction of electronic components and sleek designs was just the beginning. The new arrival was something that would change everything in the way we woke up: the emergence of the smart alarm clocks. While you may think of smartphones now as the epitome of modern timekeeping, let's remember that it was during the rise of the digital age when the concept of smart technology began to seep into the world of alarm clocks. Early smart clocks weren't really as smart as today's devices, but they were a big leap from what came before. These first devices often offered a mix of traditional alarm clock functions with advanced features like programmable alarms, radio integration, and the ability to adjust settings like brightness and sound automatically depending on the time of day. The real change came in the late 1990s and early 2000s when these alarm clocks began integrating with other electronic devices. Suddenly, you could wake up not just to a ringing bell, but with a sound file that you could choose from your music library. If you had an MP3 player, you could set your favorite song as your alarm tone or even stream it from the internet using the first rudimentary Bluetooth technology. The idea was that the alarm clock was no longer just a device to get you up. It was a fully integrated part of your media and entertainment experience. Historians still argue whether these innovations made life easier or simply added complexity. On one hand, it made waking up feel more personalized, more connected to your own tastes and routines. But on the other hand, it also opened the door to a world where waking up wasn't just about time. It was about media, notifications, and an overwhelming barrage of digital content from the moment you opened your eyes. The alarm clock was no longer a simple device that woke you from your slumber. It was the first thing to plug you into the world of constant information. For many people, this was a great convenience. Now, your phone could sync with your alarm clock, allowing you to access weather updates, news briefings, and even calendar reminders as soon as you woke up. It wasn't just about getting out of bed anymore. It was about starting your day with information. But for others, this digital leap was the start of an era where we couldn't escape from the constant noise of the digital world. The once simple task of waking up had now become a task wrapped in notifications and updates. Imagine, though, the shift you felt back then. The alarm clock was no longer just a cold machine or a simple radio. It was a gateway to your day, a device that immediately immersed you in the rhythm of modern life. No longer did you wake up to silence. You were connected to the world as soon as your alarm rang. And yet, while many embraced the rise of these smart clocks, something about the process felt strange. The transition from a simple beep to an overwhelming flood of information could leave you feeling more disoriented than ever. Perhaps you remember the moment when it hit you that your phone, now an integral part of your waking ritual, was no longer just for communication. It was the first thing you reached for in the morning, the tool that would set the tone for your entire day. As you settle deeper into rest, let yourself reflect on how far we've come, from those early mechanical bells to the fully integrated world of smart devices. Your alarm clock isn't just something that wakes you up now. It's a companion, a guide into the chaos of a connected, modern world. Now, as you drift further into calm, let's look ahead, past the early years of the digital alarm clocks and the gradual integration of smart devices. You know, the modern world has become a place where everything is interconnected, and the way we wake up is no exception. But the next evolution in alarm clock technology isn't just about convenience anymore. It's about personalized experiences and deeper integration with our daily lives. Welcome to the world of smartphones as the ultimate alarm clock, a revolution that has brought your entire life, including your wake-up time, into the palm of your hand. Let's face it, your phone is probably the first thing you check in the morning. It's your alarm, your weather report, your news briefing, and your entertainment all in one device. Gone are the days when the alarm clock was a separate, standalone device on your bedside table. Now, your phone serves as your digital assistant, guiding you through the entire process of waking up and starting your day. From customized wake-up sounds to alarms that adjust based on your sleep cycle, the smartphone has redefined what it means to wake up in the modern world. One of the most significant advancements came in the form of sleep tracking. Modern smartphones and apps are capable of monitoring your sleep patterns, providing you with data on your REM cycles and overall sleep quality. Apps like Sleep Cycle, or even smart devices like Fitbit and Apple Watch, use sensors to detect your movements during the night, waking you up at the optimal time in your sleep cycle when you're closest to a lighter phase of sleep. This isn't just about waking up on time, it's about waking up feeling refreshed, rested, and ready to tackle the day ahead. Historians still debate whether this level of personalization is a blessing or a curse. On the one hand, having a smart alarm clock that adapts to your sleep cycle feels like a massive leap forward, allowing you to wake up when your body is most prepared to get up. On the other hand, it's part of a much larger trend toward using technology to optimize every single moment of our lives. From morning routines to every little aspect of our health, we've built a digital world around us that strives for perfection, and waking up is just one piece of the puzzle. As you settle further into the feeling of your warm sheets, think about how these smart alarms work. Imagine your phone sitting by your bedside, gently vibrating or playing a soft melody at just the right moment when you're in the lightest stage of sleep. It's the opposite of the harsh beep of traditional alarm clocks, the buzzing that makes you feel like your brain is still trapped in a fog. The beauty of this technology is that it makes waking up feel almost natural, as though your body is in sync with the rhythm of the day. However, there's a downside. With this constant monitoring of our sleep cycles, we've become even more dependent on technology. We no longer have to rely on the natural cues of sunlight or even the sounds of the world around us. Our phones have become our alarm, our guide, and our alarm clock all rolled into one. And there's something a little strange about how much we've integrated technology into our most basic human processes. It's no longer just about waking up, it's about optimizing your sleep, analyzing your patterns, and making sure you're at peak performance the moment you open your eyes. Picture that moment. Your smartphone, vibrating quietly, your customized alarm tone filling the room. The gentle, familiar sound nudges you awake, slowly pulling you from the comfort of sleep, just as it has done every day for years. The transition is seamless, the experience personalized to your needs, yet there's a subtle reminder of how much control we've handed over to our devices. As you rest now, you may wonder what the future of waking up holds. Will we rely more on technology to gently ease us from sleep, or will we find ways to disconnect from these devices altogether? Awaiting continue. You're drifting into an even deeper state of calm now, and as your mind settles into the quiet of the night, let's venture into something a bit more reflective. We've come a long way from those early days when timekeeping was as simple as watching the sun's position or relying on a candle's slow burn. The alarm clock, in all its many forms, has evolved right along with our society, responding to the changing rhythms of life. And yet, as we look ahead, it's fascinating to think about the future of waking up. What will the next big leap in alarm clocks look like? Will technology push us further into the digital realm, or will we begin to move away from it? As it stands now, the alarm clock is no longer just about waking up. It's part of an ecosystem that monitors everything from our sleep quality to our stress levels, our heart rate to the temperature of the room. In fact, today's alarm clocks are capable of so much more than just telling us the time. They're connected to our home systems, smart thermostats, lighting, and even voice-activated assistants like Alexa or Google Assistant. The world of waking up is more connected than ever, and the way we start our days has become a deeply personalized, data-driven experience. But here's the twist. Despite all this advancement, there are signs of a backlash. With technology infiltrating nearly every corner of our lives, there's a growing movement toward disconnecting. People are beginning to question whether all this connectivity is making us more stressed and less restful. The rise of mindfulness practices, the push for digital detoxes, and the growing awareness of the effects of constant screen exposure all point to a desire for a simpler, more peaceful waking experience. Could the future of alarm clocks involve a return to something more natural? Perhaps we'll see a resurgence of more organic, less intrusive ways to wake up, like the sound of birds chirping or the natural light of the morning. In fact, some companies have already begun experimenting with natural wake-up technologies, such as alarm clocks that gradually brighten the room, mimicking the sunrise. Others are exploring sound therapy, where calming sounds, like ocean waves or forest rain, slowly fade in to wake you up instead of a harsh beep or chime. These innovations take us back to the roots of timekeeping, when people woke up with the sun, gently guided by the natural rhythms of the earth, not by a digital device's shrill, intrusive call. Historians still argue whether this new wave of natural wake-up technology is just another trend in the ever-growing march of technological advancement, or whether it represents a return to something more humane. On the one hand, it's refreshing to see people yearning for something simpler. On the other hand, the digital age is here to stay, and it's hard to imagine completely disconnecting from our devices. If we do continue to integrate these tools into our lives, the future of waking up might be more about balance. Imagine, then, a world where your alarm clock doesn't just wake you up, it helps set the tone for your entire day. A gentle wake-up, perhaps paired with a gradual increase in room temperature and the sound of a soft melody, can have a profound effect on your mood and energy levels. Perhaps in the future, alarm clocks will be able to predict your energy needs, waking you when you're closest to being fully rested and in sync with your body's natural rhythms. Or maybe, as technology advances, alarm clocks could adapt to your emotional state, helping you wake up with the right mindset. The possibilities are endless. As you settle further into sleep, consider the future of waking up. Will we become more attuned to our bodies and the natural world, choosing gentle alarms that integrate with the Earth's rhythms? Or will we continue to push forward, using advanced technology to optimize every aspect of our lives, even the way we wake up? For now, though, rest easy, knowing that the alarm clock has come a long way, and who knows what tomorrow's wake-up call will bring. Awaiting continue, even deeper into the peaceful embrace of sleep. But as you float there, let's pause for a moment and consider how our relationship with waking up might evolve. We've come a long way from those early, primitive ways of telling time, whether it was using candles, water, or the sun to guide the day. And yet, as we've seen, each new generation of alarm clocks introduced a fresh approach, reshaping not just how we wake up, but how we engage with the world around us. But is there a limit to how much technology should play a role in our waking experience? The current trajectory of alarm clocks seems bound for even more integration with the digital landscape. As you know, today's smartphones and devices already offer a whole suite of features designed to help us wake up and start the day. From sleep tracking apps to personalized wake-up tones to smart home systems that gently adjust the room temperature or dim the lights. But if we're going to take a deep dive into the future, we must ask, what's next? Will we continue to make waking up more and more customized, or will there be a shift toward a more mindful, intentional, and even minimalist way of starting the day? The future may offer alarm clocks that don't just wake you up. They could shape your emotional and psychological state as you start your day. Imagine a world where your alarm clock understands your mood. Maybe it starts softly, plays soothing music, and adjusts the room's ambiance based on your stress levels from the day before. What if, instead of a simple beep or a jarring sound, you wake up to a voice from your favorite podcast or a mindfulness exercise that helps center your thoughts before your feet even hit the floor? These concepts are no longer just science fiction. They are rapidly becoming a possibility as companies race to develop ways to blend technology with wellness to create a better experience. Yet, there is also something to be said for the simpler, more natural methods of waking up that people are increasingly yearning for. After all, in a world so driven by data and constant connectivity, could the best wake-up call be the one that disconnects us from technology rather than pushing us deeper into it? There's growing interest in slow living and mindfulness practices, And part of that trend could include waking up without a device dictating the start of your day. Instead of depending on a smartphone alarm, what if we return to the art of waking up with the natural world? Imagine an alarm clock that gradually brightens your room to mimic the sun's rays, the gentle warmth of light coaxing you awake rather than a harsh sound. Or maybe you could wake up to the peaceful sound of rain or birds chirping, connecting to the natural world in the most organic way possible. Historians and sleep experts still argue whether the over-reliance on technology has altered our sleep patterns for the worse. Studies suggest that blue light from our devices can interfere with our circadian rhythms, making it harder for us to get the restorative sleep our bodies crave. As much as we've integrated technology into our waking routines, it may not always be the healthiest choice. Perhaps in the future, we'll find a balance, combining the best of both worlds, technological innovation for convenience, alongside a return to nature for tranquility. Imagine waking up in a bedroom gently illuminated by a soft sunrise simulation as the sound of birds chirping fills the air. Your alarm clock could even sync with your personal preferences, allowing you to wake up refreshed without the intrusive noise of traditional alarms. You might find that your day begins on a much calmer note, setting the tone for a more peaceful and mindful experience. The next evolution of alarm clocks might not just be about being smarter, but about making us feel more human. As we embrace wellness and seek ways to better connect with ourselves and the world around us, alarm clocks will undoubtedly continue to evolve. Maybe in the future, we'll need less of the loud, jarring noises and more of the subtle reminders that it's time to wake up, gently, peacefully, and in harmony with our natural rhythms. As you let your body relax further, take a moment to reflect on where we're headed. Will we continue to push the boundaries of technology, or will we find a balance between the digital and natural worlds? One thing's for sure, the alarm clock, no matter how it evolves, will always be there to wake us up. The question remains, how will we choose to experience that first moment of the day? Awaiting.
Continue.
You're resting deeper now, the peaceful weight of sleep tugging you further. But as you relax, let's take one more step forward into the world of alarm clocks. We've explored the history, the evolution, and even speculated on the future. But now, let's think about something else. The psychological impact of our alarms. We all know that feeling, the dread of the ringing, the sudden burst of anxiety that jolts us out of a dream. But have you ever stopped to consider how alarm clocks have shaped our mental states over time? The truth is, alarm clocks have been tied to more than just timekeeping. They've influenced how we experience mornings, how we engage with the world, and even how we feel when we first open our eyes. Think back to the first mechanical alarm clocks, the loud clangs and the shrill bells ringing out to wake up entire towns. These clocks were tools of the Industrial Revolution, designed to make sure everyone was up and ready to work on time. The rise of punctuality in an industrial world meant that time was no longer flexible. It became rigid and controlled, and the alarm clock became the enforcer of that control. Even today, the mental association with alarm clocks often isn't pleasant. The sharp, repetitive sound is enough to send most people into a groggy frenzy. The snooze button culture, too, is a psychological response to this jarring wake-up call. We all know that feeling. You're just about to drift back into a peaceful sleep, but the alarm sounds again, and you hit snooze. Just a few more minutes, you think. But those few minutes are a trap. You're no longer in a deep sleep. You're drifting in and out of a lighter stage, and it's far more disorienting than if you had simply gotten up the first time the alarm rang. This isn't just a personal experience. Research shows that these moments of disrupted sleep can actually harm our health in the long run. Waking up abruptly from deep sleep can increase stress levels and make us feel sluggish for the rest of the day. Some studies even suggest that being awakened too suddenly by an alarm can negatively affect our mood, making us more irritable and anxious in the morning. When you think about it, the very concept of the alarm clock, the harsh, unexpected interruption to our sleep, seems to work against the natural rhythms of our body. Historians and psychologists still debate whether the advent of the alarm clock and its associated jarring sounds has been a net positive or negative for society. On the one hand, it helped usher in an era of precision and efficiency. We became a society that valued punctuality, and the alarm clock helped make that possible. But on the other hand, it's no secret that waking up has become something of a stressful, uncomfortable event for many people. What once may have been a natural, gentle transition from sleep to wakefulness has been turned into something far more abrupt. As you rest now, it's easy to see why the modern approach to alarm clocks is trying to shift towards something gentler, something more harmonious with our natural sleep cycles. Whether through light therapy, smart alarms, or simply having a soothing wake-up sound, the goal is to reduce the stress and anxiety often associated with waking up. The question remains, how can we create a wake-up experience that is both efficient and kind to our minds and bodies? In the future, it might be possible for alarm clocks to be integrated more seamlessly into our natural rhythms. Instead of just pushing us out of bed, maybe the future alarm clock will be a more intuitive companion, understanding when we need to wake up and allowing for a more gradual, peaceful transition from sleep to wakefulness. Imagine an alarm that senses when you're in a lighter stage of sleep and gently wakes you up, minimizing the negative effects of abrupt transitions. Maybe, rather than the buzz of a harsh beep, we'll be woken by a calm voice or soft, comforting music. These advancements are not just about technology, they're about enhancing the way we experience life. Waking up, after all, is one of the most important moments of our day, and the way we start our day often dictates the rest of it. So, what if the alarm clock, that simple yet powerful tool, could be more than just a tool for getting up on time? What if it could be a source of well-being, a way to ease into the day rather than force ourselves into it? As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the future of waking up. Will we continue to rely on harsh alarms, or will we return to something gentler, more natural? Or maybe we'll find a new balance, blending the best of both worlds, the efficiency of modern technology with the mindfulness of simpler, more peaceful mornings.
Awaiting.
Sinking into a deeper state now, the world outside fading as your mind drifts. But as we journey through this exploration of alarm clocks, there's something important to reflect on: the very nature of our relationship with time itself. For centuries, time was something we could observe through nature, through the sun, the moon, and the changing seasons. But as we developed tools like sundials, water clocks, and eventually alarm clocks, time began to take on a much more regimented, mechanical form. It wasn't just about living with time anymore. It was about controlling it. With the advent of the mechanical clock, humans took a giant leap forward. Time was no longer something that simply passed by. It became something we could manage. The rise of the alarm clock, in particular, marked a significant shift. It took something as natural and organic as sleep, and it turned it into something that could be scheduled, regulated, and interrupted. The alarm clock was a tool of precision, a way to enforce the rhythms of the industrialized world. In the past, waking up could have been a slow, gentle transition. You would rise with the sun, guided by the warmth of daylight or the natural cues from the world around you. But as society progressed, waking up became something we controlled with the press of a button, a loud ring, or a digital beep. And in a way, that's where the conflict lies. The alarm clock represents both the empowerment of controlling time and the tension it creates by forcing us to wake up at unnatural hours. Historians still argue whether the invention of alarm clocks truly freed us to be more efficient or trapped us in a cycle of relentless time management. We often think of time as a tool, something we use to organize our lives. But there's also a growing recognition that time, especially in the form of alarm clocks, can feel like an intrusive force that disrupts our peace. The nature of modern life, constantly checking the clock, running from one task to the next, has left many people yearning for a return to a simpler existence where time wasn't so tightly regulated. It's a constant push and pull, the need to be productive versus the desire to rest and live more naturally. You may even feel this conflict in your own life. Think about the mornings when you wake up to the blaring sound of an alarm. There's a tension there between your body's natural desire for rest and the pressure of time. The sound of the alarm represents a break in that natural rhythm, an interruption that forces you to engage with the world around you before you're truly ready. This tension isn't just about the alarm itself, it's about how we, as a society, have come to treat time. We've created a system where every minute counts, and the result is often a feeling of being rushed, disconnected, or stressed from the moment we wake up. As you rest, it's interesting to think about how much the alarm clock has shaped our sense of urgency. Today, we're constantly aware of the ticking clock, of the limited hours we have in a day. And while there's certainly a benefit to time management and punctuality, the overwhelming presence of time in our lives can lead to burnout, fatigue, and a sense of being out of sync with ourselves. What if, in the future, we could break free from this cycle of constant scheduling, using our alarms not as a tool of control, but as a gentle nudge that respects our natural rhythms? Could we find a balance between the precision that technology offers and the restorative peace of a life that's more connected to nature? Perhaps the future of alarm clocks will no longer focus on precision at all. Maybe we'll start to see devices that encourage mindfulness, offering a more holistic approach to waking up. Imagine an alarm clock that helps you gently transition from sleep to wakefulness, gradually bringing you into a state of awareness rather than startling you out of it. With the growing focus on wellness and mindfulness, the next evolution of the alarm clock might be less about time and more about creating a peaceful start to your day, something that aligns with your body's natural rhythms rather than forcing you to conform to a rigid schedule. As you relax, consider that your morning wake-up could one day be part of a broader experience, one where time isn't something that controls you, but something you move with. The future might offer us ways to wake up not just to the sound of an alarm, but to the sound of our own body's needs, gently nudging us into the day without the stress, the anxiety, or the rush. Awaiting continue. As you sink deeper into rest, imagine a future where waking up is no longer a jarring experience. The alarm clock, in all its forms, has long been a tool to pull us from the depths of sleep, often with harsh, intrusive sounds that disrupt the peaceful cocoon we try to hold onto in the morning. But what if, as we look ahead, the act of waking up could be as gentle as the process of falling asleep? The possibilities of a future where alarm clocks are less about disruption and more about harmony are starting to emerge, and it's worth exploring what that could look like. Take, for example, the rising trend of smart home integration. More and more alarm clocks are being connected to home systems, allowing them to synchronize with your bedroom's environment. Imagine waking up not to the shrill beep of an old-fashioned clock, but to the soft glow of light gradually brightening your room, simulating a sunrise. The warmth of the light eases you from the comfort of your blankets, gradually inviting you into the day instead of forcing you out of it. It's an approach that mimics nature itself, the sun rising, gradually filling your space with light, rather than suddenly thrusting you into brightness. These wake-up lights are part of a growing category of alarm clocks that aim to reconnect us with the natural rhythms of the world around us. Instead of having a loud sound interrupt your sleep, these devices use gentle cues like light, sound, or even vibrations to help your body transition from the state of sleep to wakefulness in a more balanced way. The light gradually increases in brightness over a period of time, signaling to your brain that it's time to wake up. The concept is based on the idea of the circadian rhythm, the internal clock that regulates our sleep and wake cycles based on natural light cues. By aligning the wake-up process with these rhythms, we can begin to wake up feeling more refreshed and less groggy. But what if this gentle wake-up could go even further? Imagine if your alarm clock could not only adjust the light and sound to suit your needs, but also analyze your sleep patterns in real time and adapt accordingly. These smart alarm clocks already exist, using data from your phone or wearable devices like a Fitbit or Apple Watch to determine which phase of sleep you're in. The goal is simple: wake you up at the optimal time, when you're in a lighter sleep phase, rather than interrupting your deep sleep. By doing so, it reduces the grogginess and disorientation that often accompanies waking up, and you're more likely to feel refreshed. The evolution of these devices points toward a future where the process of waking up is deeply personalized. No longer will alarm clocks be a one-size-fits-all experience. Instead, they could be tailored to fit your specific needs based on how much sleep you've gotten, your stress levels from the previous day, or even your mood. Imagine waking up to calming music, adjusted to your preferences, or a voice gently guiding you through breathing exercises to ease you into your day. This is where we're headed, with alarm clocks becoming not just timekeepers, but wellness tools that enhance our overall well-being. However, not everyone is on board with the idea of a smart alarm clock. Some people still prefer the simplicity of an analog clock, the familiar ticking, or the comfort of a traditional alarm that's more straightforward. Historians and psychologists still argue about whether these new alarm technologies are making us more in tune with our natural sleep patterns or simply making us more dependent on technology. Some critics worry that we might be creating a world where we're so reliant on devices for even the most basic needs, like waking up, that we've lost our connection to our own bodies and the natural cues they give us. As you relax deeper into sleep, consider how much the technology of tomorrow could change how we wake up. Will we find the perfect balance between smart devices and natural rhythms? Or will we move away from all this technology and embrace a simpler way of waking up? Maybe using an old-fashioned clock, or even just the rising sun? The future of alarm clocks holds infinite possibilities, and it seems we're at the cusp of a transition. As you sink deeper, let yourself feel the calm and serenity of that perfect future wake-up. No harsh alarms, no beeping buzzers, just a gentle transition from rest to wakefulness, a shift that honors your body's needs, and a world where the alarm clock is not just a tool, but a companion, guiding you into your day with peace. You're now drifting into an even deeper state, the soft, gentle pull of sleep surrounding you. And as you begin to relax, let's take one more look at the bigger picture. Alarm clocks have come to be synonymous with how we start our days. But as technology continues to evolve, it's clear that the future of waking up will be about much more than just getting up on time. It will be about how we feel as we rise, how connected we are to ourselves and the world around us, and how we can incorporate wellness into even the most mundane moments of our day. One thing is certain, our relationship with alarm clocks has always been tied to more than just time. It's tied to how we live our lives, how we navigate a world that often demands more from us than we can give. The early alarm clocks were born out of necessity, an industrial world that needed people to be awake and working at specific times. The loud bells, the harsh mechanical sounds, they were tools of productivity. But now, in the modern age, we find ourselves reconsidering what productivity means and how we can balance our work with our well-being. And alarm clocks, as a part of this, are evolving. As we look ahead, we're beginning to see a shift from the purely utilitarian purpose of an alarm clock to one that's centered on holistic well-being. In the past, waking up was a mechanical event, something to be endured. But in the future, waking up could be a carefully crafted experience, an experience that aligns with our body's needs and promotes our mental, physical, and emotional health. This might mean waking up gently with light that mimics a sunrise, or waking up with sounds that are more soothing and natural, like the chirping of birds or the sound of soft rain. It might mean waking up without the stress of feeling rushed, but with a sense of calm that permeates the rest of the day. This shift is part of a broader societal movement toward mindfulness and wellness. As we become more aware of the toll that stress, anxiety, and burnout take on our bodies, we're beginning to prioritize self-care in new and innovative ways. Alarm clocks, once a symbol of timekeeping and productivity, are now evolving into tools that enhance our mental health, helping us start the day in a more centered, peaceful state. But of course, this transformation is not without its challenges. The digital age has brought us a wealth of convenience, but it's also created an environment where we are constantly bombarded with information, notifications, and demands. Our smartphones, with their infinite possibilities, are simultaneously our best friends and our biggest distractions. As much as technology has advanced, it's also made it harder to disconnect, harder to find peace, and harder to simply be present. And while the future of alarm clocks may offer us a more peaceful wake-up experience, we will also need to find ways to manage our relationship with technology itself, ensuring that we don't become too reliant on it for even the most basic human experiences. In this future, it's possible that we'll need to take a step back from the technological excess of modern life and embrace simpler, more natural ways of waking up. Some people might find solace in going back to analog clocks, or perhaps relying on the gradual shift of sunlight through their windows to gently nudge them awake. In fact, there's growing interest in sleep hygiene and digital detoxes, where people step away from their devices in the hours leading up to sleep, allowing their minds to unwind and disconnect from the constant buzz of the digital world. Maybe in the future, the alarm clock will be part of that process, just another tool to help us wake up in a world that's not constantly pulling us in every direction. As you rest in this peaceful state, think about this idea. The future of alarm clocks may not be about the alarm at all. It may be about how we feel when we wake up. It might be about finding balance between the natural world and the digital one. It might be about using technology to help us become more connected to ourselves rather than disconnected. Whether it's through a wake-up light that mimics the sun or a personalized audio experience that gently brings us back to awareness, the future of waking up is about taking control of how we start the day, not just when we start it. So, let your mind settle into that idea. Imagine waking up without the anxiety, the rush, or the stress. Imagine a future where your alarm clock is a soothing companion, guiding you from sleep to wakefulness with the same care and attention you'd offer to a dear friend. The future of waking up holds endless possibilities, and as you relax into your slumber, know that the alarm clock is evolving, just as we are. It's no longer just a tool, it's part of the journey to becoming the best version of ourselves. You're floating deeper into a peaceful state now, your body fully relaxed, and the rhythm of your breathing settling into a comfortable pace. But as we ease into this calm, it's important to reflect on the human need for routine. Alarm clocks have played such an integral part in creating those routines, giving us structure and marking the beginning of each day. Over the centuries, we've gone from using the sun's position to the soft glow of a wake-up light, all in an effort to make mornings easier to navigate. But beyond that, alarm clocks are also deeply tied to the very essence of human time management and how we organize our lives. Consider the role of routines in our daily lives. In ancient times, routines were primarily shaped by the rising and setting of the sun. You woke up when the daylight arrived, and the day unfolded in tandem with the natural cycles of the earth. But as we've moved further into the modern world, routine has become something we control, rather than something that controls us. With the invention of mechanical clocks and later alarm clocks, the structure of our days shifted from a natural flow to a more regulated, clock-driven rhythm. Now, with alarm clocks guiding our mornings, we've come to rely on routines to set the pace of our lives. But is this routine always a good thing? There's a growing conversation in modern wellness circles about how much we've come to rely on the hustle culture, that constant need to be productive, to be on time, to always have somewhere to be or something to do. This hustle is deeply ingrained in our waking moments, driven largely by the alarm clock, pushing us to rise and start our day without pause. But what if there was a better way? What if we could still enjoy the benefits of routine without the rush or the stress that often accompanies it? Enter the idea of mindful waking. What if the alarm clock, rather than jolting you awake, helped you ease into your day with intention? Instead of hearing a harsh buzz that makes you feel immediately anxious or rushed, imagine waking up to something soothing, a sound or light that allows you to gently transition from the unconscious state of sleep to a more conscious, mindful state of awareness. Studies on sleep cycles show that our bodies are naturally predisposed to waking up more easily during lighter stages of sleep. So, with advancements in sleep technology, it's becoming possible for alarm clocks to track our sleep cycles and gently wake us up when we're in the lightest phase, thus making the process smoother and more aligned with our body's natural rhythms. This shift could change the very way we approach our mornings. The pressure of a strict routine while productive, may not be as beneficial as it once seemed. If we continue to evolve how we wake up, our routines could become less rigid, more organic, and more in tune with our own needs. The future of alarm clocks may not simply be about telling us when to wake up, but also about guiding us into a morning routine that prioritizes our mental and physical well-being. Historians and psychologists often debate whether this kind of change is a return to the more natural state of living, or if it's simply another form of technological advancement that we've woven into the fabric of our lives. Are we moving toward a more peaceful way of waking, or are we just finding another way to manage our time? It's a question that has no clear answer, but one thing is for certain. The next generation of alarm clocks is going to be deeply tied to our understanding of self-care and wellness. These devices could help us approach the day with a clearer, more centered mind, rather than just rushing from one task to another. In this new world, alarm clocks would serve as more than just a timekeeper. They could become part of our emotional landscape, guiding us from a place of rest to a place of calm engagement with the world. The connection between waking up and feeling refreshed, calm, and ready for the day is becoming clearer. It's not about how quickly we rise, but how gently we ease into our day. As you rest now, imagine a world where your alarm clock isn't just a device on your nightstand. It's an intuitive companion, working in harmony with your body, mind, and environment to make the transition from sleep to wakefulness as smooth and comfortable as possible. With each passing year, we get closer to this future, where the alarm clock might no longer be something we dread, but something that gently nudges us into the day with warmth, care, and intention. Awaiting continue. You're now sinking deeper. The quiet darkness around you feels more like a soft embrace as you let go of the day's weight. While you drift in that peaceful space, let's explore the modern complexities of waking up, particularly how it fits into the hustle and bustle of our contemporary lives. Alarm clocks, in their many forms, have served as tools to help us meet the demands of society. But as we've advanced technologically, we've also begun to see the downside of constantly being on the clock. Consider the role of alarm clocks in our modern culture. Historically, waking up has always been tied to a larger rhythm, whether it was the sun, the church bells, or even the turning of the seasons. But the advent of the Industrial Revolution changed all of that. Time was no longer a loose concept tied to nature. It became something rigid, a currency that we could control, measure, and sell. Alarm clocks were a tool in that transformation. They ensured that we were up and out the door on time, ready to work, ready to produce. The beep of the alarm became synonymous with our transition from rest to action. But in today's world, we live in a constant cycle of productivity. The alarm clock is often no longer just a tool for getting up, but a symbol of the ever-increasing pressure to meet deadlines, fulfill expectations, and be constantly on the move. This constant pressure can be mentally and physically draining. More and more, we're realizing that this rush to be constantly productive comes at a cost to our well-being. Research into sleep deprivation, anxiety, and burnout paints a stark picture of how our need to always be on the go, to answer to our alarm clocks and our schedules, can take a toll on our bodies. Alarm clocks, once tools of productivity, are now often associated with the stress of managing time rather than experiencing it naturally. However, this growing awareness is also giving birth to a new wave of thinking about time. People are beginning to push back against the unrelenting expectations placed on them, and alarm clocks are part of this reconsideration. We're moving towards a world where the idea of slowing down, of embracing our natural rhythms, becomes a priority. And alarm clocks, in this world, could play a role in helping us wake up more gently, more mindfully. The future may see fewer harsh wake-up calls and more gradual transitions from sleep, allowing us to wake up not with an abrupt jolt, but with a sense of calm. There's also a rise in the wellness movement, which is pushing for mindful mornings and mindful wake-ups. In the future, alarm clocks may be as much about how we wake up as when. Imagine an alarm clock that wakes you up with gentle soundscapes, guided breathing exercises, or even meditation prompts. By integrating calming rituals into the morning routine, the transition from sleep to waking would be much more aligned with the mental wellness movement, creating a sense of peace and groundedness from the start of the day. As you rest, imagine a future where your alarm clock isn't tied to a rigid schedule. Instead of an early rise dictated by an industrial age model of productivity, what if you could wake up when your body felt rested, when your mind was ready to start the day? It's an interesting thought, one that many are starting to explore. With the ability to measure sleep cycles, adjust light exposure, and even influence sound, future alarm clocks could help make waking up a much more intuitive and compassionate process. But even with these advancements, there's a question that remains. Will we ever completely escape the pressure of time? The answer may be that we can't entirely, but we can begin to redefine how we interact with it. By reclaiming our mornings, our routines, and our sleep, we can transform the relationship we have with time, shifting away from one of constant urgency and stress and moving toward one of mindfulness and balance. As you let yourself drift deeper, consider this new world of possibility. Imagine waking up each day not out of obligation, but out of a desire to embrace the new day with calm and intention. Your alarm clock, once a symbol of industrial demands, could instead be a companion, helping you ease into a day that is less about rushing and more about being present. Awaiting continue. Section 23. You're slipping even deeper into your rest now, your body growing heavy with relaxation, and your mind, free from the demands of the day, is starting to wander to quieter thoughts. But as we pause in this peaceful space, let's talk about a new dimension of alarm clocks that's been quietly gaining traction in recent years. As society continues to evolve and re-examine the pressures we place on ourselves, the way we wake up is becoming a reflection of a larger cultural shift, one that's seeking balance, health, and mindfulness in a world that's often moving too fast. In the past, alarm clocks were tools of efficiency, dictating when we wake up, when we need to get up and work, and when we need to start the daily grind. But now, as we've come to understand the impact that stress and rushing can have on our mental and physical health, there's a rising movement that seeks to disconnect from the chaotic buzz of our alarm clocks. Instead of an abrupt, loud beep that forces you out of sleep, the new frontier in alarm clock design is about something gentler, something that takes into account the body's natural rhythms. Imagine this. You wake up not to a jarring noise, but to the soft glow of a light that gradually brightens your room. The temperature of the room adjusts slowly to match your body's natural rhythms, and your favorite soothing music or ambient sound gently eases you into awareness. Your alarm clock, rather than an aggressive interrupter, is now a soft, guiding presence that supports a more peaceful transition from rest to wakefulness. This shift toward natural wake-up cues reflects a broader cultural movement toward wellness, a movement that's about more than just physical health. It's about emotional and mental balance. People today are more aware of the toll that stress and sleep deprivation can take on their minds and bodies. Alarm clocks, once tied to industrial productivity, are now becoming tools for self-care, allowing us to reclaim some of the peacefulness that has been lost in a world driven by constant deadlines and pressures. But it's not just about changing the alarm clock itself. It's about reclaiming the morning as a time for mindfulness, for setting the tone for the day ahead. Instead of waking up and immediately reaching for your phone to check emails or messages, what if your alarm clock helped you focus on more peaceful, intentional actions? Apps and devices are already being developed that can combine your wake-up time with gentle guided meditation, stretching exercises, or even reflective journaling prompts, all designed to ease you into your day with a sense of calm and intention. Historians and wellness experts still argue whether technology can truly create a more balanced, peaceful wake-up experience. Some worry that we're simply using technology to create a different kind of pressure, one that replaces the old demands with new ones, like the constant push for self-improvement and optimization. However, the goal of these new alarm clocks and wake-up systems is not to add more to our already full plates, but to help us approach the day from a place of clarity, calm, and control. By focusing on how we wake up, we can start to reframe the rest of the day. It's fascinating to think that the evolution of alarm clocks, These devices that have been tied to urgency and productivity could one day be seen as part of the solution to a world that has grown overwhelmed by the pressures of constant activity. Imagine that your alarm clock isn't just a tool to get you up and out of bed. It's a device that actually helps you stay grounded, centered, and aware as you rise. As you rest now, think about this new vision of waking up, a future where the alarm clock is no longer an adversary, but a companion, a device that respects your body's natural rhythms, that gently nudges you awake and sets the tone for the day ahead. Rather than hastening you into stress, your alarm clock could become a part of your self-care routine, starting your morning with intention and mindfulness. In this future, your alarm clock won't just be something that wakes you up. It will be something that helps you live your day, starting from the very first moment. It's an evolution, not just in technology, but in how we choose to experience time itself. Awaiting continue. You're floating deeper into relaxation now, your mind calming with each breath as the world around you fades away. But as we settle into this space, let's consider the broader implications of this shift in how we wake up. The evolution of alarm clocks, as we've seen, has been a journey from mechanical bells to the rise of gentle wake-up devices, guided by light, sound, and even personal health data. But these changes reflect a much bigger societal shift, one that's less about productivity and more about balance, self-awareness, and finding ways to live in harmony with both ourselves and the world around us. Alarm clocks have long been symbols of time, precision, and control. But as we move forward, the future of waking up may not be about the tyranny of the clock. It could be about mindful mornings, about connecting with the body's natural rhythms and taking the time to ease into the day without the rush. In many ways, the rise of wellness culture has started to reshape how we think about time, encouraging us to slow down and listen to what our bodies need rather than following a rigid schedule dictated by a clock. This shift is reflected in the growing popularity of practices like morning meditation, yoga, and even sleep optimization, where we seek to connect with our internal rhythms and align our lives with what feels natural. The modern alarm clock, once tied solely to waking up for work or productivity, could soon evolve into something far more personal. Imagine waking up without the urgency of an alarm ringing in your ear. Instead, your morning could begin with something soothing, a soft light, the sound of calming waves or birds, or perhaps even a reminder to stretch and take a deep breath before checking your phone or diving into the busyness of your day. With the advent of smart home systems and personalized wake-up technology, future alarm clocks might even be able to help you begin your day with mindfulness built right in. This type of gentle wake-up experience might be more than just a nice-to-have feature. It could be a way of claiming the morning as a time to center yourself before the hustle of the day takes over. Studies have shown that how we start our day can significantly impact our mood, productivity, and stress levels. By waking up with a sense of calm and intention, rather than being immediately bombarded by the demands of life, we set ourselves up for a more balanced day ahead. However, this shift toward mindful wake-up routines doesn't mean that technology is being cast aside. It's being reimagined. In fact, the future of alarm clocks may see a fusion of technology and wellness, where devices don't just wake us up, they help us connect. The alarm clock might soon be part of a larger network of devices that monitor and promote our overall well-being, from sleep tracking to stress reduction, helping us not just wake up, but start the day on the right note, mentally and physically prepared for what lies ahead. As you rest here, think about this possibility. What if the future of the alarm clock was not about controlling time, but about understanding it? What if it was about creating a seamless transition from sleep to wakefulness, where time was not something to be feared or rushed through, but something that flows gently, harmonizing with your natural rhythms and needs? With smart devices like wearables and sleep apps, we're already taking the first steps toward this more mindful experience, where we can tune into our bodies and wake up at the optimal time in our sleep cycle. And as we look even further into the future, imagine alarm clocks that go beyond merely waking you up. They could offer daily intentions, set the tone for the day with affirmations, or even integrate with your mindfulness practices. By the time you open your eyes, you could already feel aligned, present, and ready to face whatever the day holds, without the stress of rushing or jumping straight into work. There's also something beautifully human about this evolution. We've spent centuries inventing tools to make time more predictable, more controlled. But now, we're starting to see a desire to break free from that. Maybe the next evolution of alarm clocks isn't just about precision, it's about creating a more meaningful relationship with time, one that respects both the need for rest and the desire for productivity. Imagine a morning that feels like an invitation rather than an obligation. Your alarm clock could be part of a holistic approach to life, gently waking you up, guiding you into a peaceful morning routine, and setting the stage for a day that's balanced, focused, and calm. The future of the alarm clock, rather than being something we dread, might become something we look forward to, a tool that helps us live in harmony with time rather than simply obeying it. We're waiting, continue. You're almost weightless now, your body and mind fully relaxed, and the world around you feels like a distant hum. But as we approach the final stretch of this journey through time and technology, let's reflect on something profound. The evolution of the alarm clock symbolizes not just technological progress, but the changing nature of our relationship with time. From the first simple methods of tracking time to the sleek digital devices we rely on today, the alarm clock has always been there, marking the passage of the hours. But as we've seen, its role has shifted and continues to shift from a tool of productivity and efficiency to something much more personal, thoughtful, and mindful. When we think about the future of alarm clocks, it's not just about the technology that drives them or the way they wake us up, it's about how they make us feel. Imagine waking up not to a harsh sound, not to the pressure of a ticking clock, but to a world where time is something we can gently slip into, guided by our natural rhythms, supported by technology that's designed to help us be at our best. The future of waking up could mean a world where the alarm clock is no longer just a tool to disrupt our slumber, but a part of a wellness journey. It might be a device that harmonizes with our sleep cycles, with our mind, and with the natural world, helping us wake up when our bodies are ready, easing us into the day with peace and intention. And what about the role of mindfulness in this future? Mindfulness isn't just a trend, it's becoming a crucial part of how we navigate a fast-paced, overstimulated world. Alarm clocks could soon be more than just functional. They could help us maintain a balanced, grounded approach to waking up, focusing not just on the mechanics of time, but on the experience of the moment itself. The gentle light that fills the room, the soft sounds that help center us, the focus on sleep health and well-being. These elements could come together to create a new morning ritual, one that invites us to embrace the day with clarity, calm, and focus. Imagine a world where waking up isn't something we have to rush through, but something we can savor, with the support of technology designed to help us feel more connected, not less. Alarm clocks could become tools of self-care, offering more than just the time of day. They could be the first step in a mindful, intentional routine that sets the tone for the hours that follow. Whether it's through sleep optimization, a wake-up light that mimics the sunrise, or guided breathing exercises, the future of waking up is about integrating our waking moments with the wellness tools that can help us thrive. In a way, this evolution mirrors the journey of human consciousness. We've moved from relying on external clocks to relying on our own internal rhythms, and now, in this technological age, we're finding ways to harmonize the two. It's about using technology not to control time, but to guide us gently through it, helping us reclaim our mornings and set the stage for a more balanced, mindful life. As you drift even deeper into the quiet, let this future settle into your mind. Imagine the calm of a world where you wake up with ease, your body and mind in sync with the natural flow of time. No alarms, no rush, no stress, just a gentle awakening, the perfect balance of technology and nature. Your alarm clock, once an instrument of urgency and productivity, now serves as a tool of peace, helping you begin each day with intention, clarity, and calm. Now take a slow, deep breath. Picture that gentle wake up, soft light, calm sounds, and the feeling of being completely in tune with the day ahead. And as you relax further, let yourself settle into the quiet, knowing that the future holds the possibility of waking up with ease, a future where we truly live in harmony with time. End of script. Sweet dreams.